Good day, everyone. My name is Rich Chester. I am the Director of Consulting for LPA Software Solutions and also the BI Practice Manager. And today we're going to talk about the external data capability that is part of IBM Cognos 10 BI. The agenda for today is that we're going to talk about just what this capability is. We'll talk about the process for incorporating external data into a package. We'll talk about what considerations there are when you create a report using external data. And finally, we'll do a demonstration where I'll write some reports and upload some spreadsheets. And then if there's time, we'll do a session of questions and answers. Do please submit your questions as we go using the chat feature in the webinar window. I'll get to as many questions today as I have time for. If we run out of time and your question hasn't been answered, rest assured that we will answer it via email after the webinar is complete. So submit them, please, and we'll do as many as we can. Let's go ahead and first talk about this external data capability. What is it, and how do you use it? So first of all, what is it? The notion here is that you wish to incorporate data on your PC, or perhaps in a network share, into a report with data that is being managed centrally that you access via a package when you write a Report Studio report. So you might have a spreadsheet of information that is managed by you, sitting in a folder on your PC or out on your T drive or wherever, right? And you wish to include that data on a report along with data that is in the package that is being managed, let's suppose, by your IT organization. So it's a matter of combining the managed data with your personally managed data. You can do this provided your administrator has enabled it, and I will take you through some of the enablement steps so you have an idea how you might turn this on or off for your end users. Now, before you can incorporate your personal data, it does have to be in one of the supported data formats. Those are Excel, up to and including Excel 2007. So I guess the important point there is it does not include Excel 2010 and later. CSV is always usable. Tab delimited and as opposed to comma delimited would also be fine. And then there is a schema where if you had an XML file that conformed to that schema, you could upload an XML file, although I have yet to find an end user who has done that. That is supported and documented. Now, the pictures that I'm showing you here are for prior to Cognos 10.2.2. So if you wanted to invoke the wizard to help you incorporate your external data and attach it with a package, that's the green database with the pencil on it that's outlined in the pictures on the right. But on the left, with 10.2.2, we did get a new icon. And the demo I'll be doing today is on 10.2.2, so you'll see that I will be using a different icon than the green one. But if you're on 10.2.1, it's the green one. 10.2.2, it's the gray one. But that invokes a wizard that will allow you to identify your Excel or CSV file and also identify how you relate that data to data in a package. So first of all, you need to create a data file. And that data file might be one that you already have that you're working on. The notion here, though, is that it can't be a highly formatted file. So CSV and tab delimited files, they are not inherently a formatted file. But you can imagine that an Excel file could have any number of formats and any number of tabs, for example. The uploader, the wizard, always reads the first tab in the spreadsheet if you use a spreadsheet. So if you have a highly formatted spreadsheet and then you create a data tab that is not highly formatted, that is essentially a first row of column names and then rows of data, that will work as long as it's in Excel 2007 or earlier. And like I said, CSV or tab delimited, you won't have a formatting problem, but the first row still does need to be column names. Also make sure that your dates are formatted as strings in Excel, not as Excel dates. And you need to format them like Cognos formats dates in Report Studio, which is a 4-digit year, a dash, 2-digit month, a dash, and 2-digit day. So you do want those formatted as strings in your Excel file or in your CSV in that fashion. The other thing you want to make sure is in your file is some way to attach it to the data in the package to which you will attach the file you're uploading. So if you can't attach the data from, let's say, your spreadsheet to data in a query subject, for example, in the package, then you won't be able to put the data from your spreadsheet in a report object like a list that has data from both the package and your spreadsheet. It'll still allow you to upload that spreadsheet and you could still write a report from it. However, the real power of the external data feature is that I can incorporate it with the data that's already expressed in the package and incorporate both into the same object on my report, the same list, the same crosstab, the same chart. Then you invoke the wizard after opening Report Studio or Cognos Workspace Advanced and clicking the wizard button. That's something that your administrator controls who has access to. If you have access to it, you click it, there's a wizard, and I'll show you the slides. We'll show you the wizard steps in a moment. Once you've created a new package, so what this does is you pick the package by opening Report Studio and picking a package, or open CWA, pick a package. Invoke the wizard. The wizard assumes you're going to attach the file you are going to identify to the package you have open. You run the wizard, it creates a new package that includes a pointer to the first package you started with, let's call that the enterprise package, the centrally managed data, plus a pointer to your file. And it shows you essentially the whole original package plus a namespace with a query subject in it that represents your file. Then you create reports using that package. And you create reports using that package in essentially the same way you create any report. And you can calculate on data that's both in the package originally as well as coming from your file and so on. Now, if you have written a file that way and you've uploaded your file and you've written a report using that file, you do need to think about how you might share that report, because anyone else running that report would need to have access to your file, let's say your spreadsheet. If they don't have access to your spreadsheet, they can't run that report unless you give them that spreadsheet, or they have a spreadsheet of their own that is identically formatted to yours, which actually, if you think about it, can add a bit of power to this capability, right? We have a package that points to a spreadsheet layout. When I run, I point it to my spreadsheet. When you run, you point it to your spreadsheet. That same report will incorporate our private data. The trick is that the spreadsheet that I have and the spreadsheet that you have must be identically formatted. So running the wizard, there's just a few steps. The first step is to identify the location of the file and the columns in the file that you wish to incorporate into a query subject. So you see there's a browse button. You note in the picture I've picked an Excel spreadsheet off of my desktop. I have unselected employee name. I'm just saying that even though that's in my file, I don't need it in my query subject. I will get a namespace for my query subject automatically. I can change the name of it, but it will default to the name of my file. So that's step number one. The one thing I didn't cover is the checkbox at the top. Allow the server to automatically load the file. If the wizard believes that the file is in a location that both the logged in user and the Cognos server could access, which is typically going to mean a network share, then that button will be clickable. And if you click it, what Cognos will do when you run a report that uses external data is it will go to the location you've just specified and pick up the file without prompting you. It would only prompt you with that box checked if it went to that location and didn't find the file. Then it would give you a chance to identify where the file is. If you want it to always prompt, so if we think about my example where we're both running the same report, I have a file, you have a file, I would not check that checkbox because I always want it to run and ask where the file is so that I can pick my file and you can pick your file. So you want to think about whether that should be cleared and always prompt or should be checked and only prompt if the location of the file has somehow changed or the file is no longer accessible. After you've identified the file and the columns, the next thing the wizard asks you to do is connect your file to either a query subject in the package of the package you had open when you began the wizard, or to a report that has already been written. Now, I'll talk about why you might connect it to a report in a moment, but I'm just going to go through the wizard in a general way first, and then we'll talk about this notion of why I might choose a report rather than choosing a query subject. But either way, I have to pick something. This is where if I don't pick something to link, I will not be able to put the data from my file and the data from the package in the same object on my report. If I have a way to link it, then I can combine the data. And so this is my opportunity to link my file to the contents of the package or to a report that I've previously written. The next thing is a bit of modeling. So when we use a package in Cognos, we count on the modeler having done things like identified which are the measures and which are the non-measures in my report package, right? Which are attributes and identifiers, which it does not roll up, and which are the measures, which it will roll up. So on this screen, I indicate which are the measures and which are the non-measures. And for the measures, I indicate what the default roll-up, or what Cognos is showing here as the default summary. So, if I had a revenue column, my default summary for that column would probably be to sum it up, to total it up. If I had a unit price, my default summary would probably be to average it. If I have a employee name, my default summary would be unsupported because it is not a measure. So once you have done some basic modeling about the data that is in your file, you finally talk about what Cognos refers to as cardinality. So we linked this data in the file to my package in step number 2. This step says, all right, how does that data relate in terms of quantities and required matches? So cardinality in Cognos is in 2 pieces. And you see there is a 1-to-1 box here with 2 numbers in it, and a 1-to-n box here with 2 numbers in it. So the first number is either going to be a 0 or a 1, and it's controlled by values in the data source. So, it's controlled by values in report results. The first number is controlled by the second setting, which is a little bizarre, but we'll look at that when we do it. 0 on the first number means that we want to include rows with missing values. A 1 on that first number means we want to exclude unmatched rows, rows that do not match on both sides of the relationship. This top one talks about how many rows in this file will match how many rows in this query subject. So that could be that one row always matches one row in the query subject. That would show a 1-to-1 and a 1-to-1. The way this is set up, it says this guy will only ever match one row in my file, but each row in my file could match multiple rows in my query subject. And that's what's set here. So this may be the most confusing screen in the whole external data experience, in that you have to actually understand how your data is going to relate, both in terms of quantities, how many on the left will match how many on the right, and how many on the right will match how many on the left, but also whether you want to include or exclude data from either side when there is no match. So, and that will control the results of your report more than anything else, are the settings here. So this is important to think through and get right. So 4 steps, and then you're asked to publish a new package. And this package will be a pointer to the original package that you started with, plus a namespace for the file you uploaded. Now, by default, every package has, unless your modeler changes it, every package can have exactly 1 spreadsheet attached to it. However, your modeler might choose to change that. They might choose to increase that number, maybe 2 or 3 spreadsheets, or they might choose to not allow any spreadsheets to be attached to a package. So when the Framework Manager modeler goes in for a project and updates the governors include how many spreadsheets, how many external files actually is a better way to put it, you could attach to any package published from that model. It also, as it turns out, lets you dictate how many rows you will allow, so the maximum number of rows in any file that's attached, and or the maximum size of any file attached to a package published from that framework model. So your modeler sets some limits up for you, but provided they've allowed at least one, you can run the wizard, you'll get to this point. If they allow more than one, you'll find the starburst key to add a second or third file to the package. In 10.2.2, that won't be a starburst anymore. The icon in 10.2.2 will be a plus sign. But by default, unless your modeler has changed something, it's 1 or 0. Right? You don't have to attach a file, but if you do attach a file, you get to attach one and only one file. The package name defaults to the original package plus the words external data. You could change that name by clicking the ellipsis. Also be aware that by default, this is going to publish that package in your My folders. And you could also change the location to public folders if you choose to. My folders would keep the package and the spreadsheet attached to that private. You wouldn't be able to share reports using that this new package that we're going to publish. And then nobody else would be able to access those reports because they're in your My folders and that's private. If, on the other hand, you were going to share reports that were written using the external data summary, back to my example of when I run it, I pick my spreadsheet, and when you run it, you pick your spreadsheet, well, then that package would have to be put in the public folder, and so you would have to change that by clicking the ellipsis. Once you've done that, it will actually, in CWA and in Report Studio, it will actually update the report that you have open to use this newly published package, and it will validate the report right then and there. Normally when I do this, I've launched a report, I haven't written anything. I do the wizard. When I'm done, I've got an empty list report, let's suppose. When I do the wizard and I'm done, it updates the report to use the package I just published, and it immediately tells me that my report is fine because it does a quick validation, but my report's empty, so there's really nothing to validate. However, if you did do this external data with a finished report open before you started the wizard, it would then validate your report against this new package and automatically update the report to be using this new package that includes the uploaded file. Once you have written your report, you can run the report the same way you run any other report. If you do not have access to the external data, when you run the report and it prompts you to upload the file, you won't be able to run a file, upload a file, and therefore you won't be able to run the report. If you want to know, if you're running a report and you're in the Cognos viewer and you see a lovely report and you wonder whether any column might come from external data, you could always right-click on the column like I'm showing here at the top of the screen and look at lineage, and lineage will definitely tell you that this is coming from an external data file as opposed to the main part of the package. So lineage works for end users if they do look back and where does this column come from. But otherwise, it's going to look just like any other report to users who run it. And writing reports, same rules, same way we write any report, because ultimately now you've just got a package that happens to point to your file. Now, back earlier I told you I would come back to this concept of linking to a query subject versus linking to a report. So relational data, right, rows and columns data, is what you would call the data in a spreadsheet or a CSV. It would be relational data. That's as opposed to, let's call OLAP data or a cube data. Your spreadsheet is not a cube. Your spreadsheet is a collection of rows with column names, just like any other query subject in a relational package. Those of you who are Report Studio users know that you cannot join relational data, like your file, to a cube, like maybe an SSAS cube or a dynamic cube or a power cube. It's simply not possible. So one of the reasons you might link not to a query subject, which would be, like one of the dimensional objects in a package that represents a cube, you would create a list report from your cube that contains all of the data you need to link your spreadsheet to that list report. and therefore you could still link it to data in the cube even though you're not linking it to the cube. You're linking it to a list report, and it would be a report with just a list in it and nothing else, and you would drag data over from your cube into the list report. You would link to the report, and then you would be able to incorporate data from your cube and your spreadsheet into an object on a report page. But remember now, the data is no longer dimensional. There's no drill down and drill up. The act of creating the flat report from the cube converts the cube data to relational, and now I've got a file that's relational, a list report that's relational. I can connect them and join the data. So that's one reason that you might use a report in that step 2 that connects the data. So let me go back to where I'm up. So right here, where I could choose either a query subject or a report, if this side, the right side, is actually going to represent a dimensional package, a cube package, like a power cube or a dynamic cube, I cannot choose a query subject because in a cube, there are no query subjects. All I have are dimensions and hierarchies. Well, there I would need to choose a report. That's the only way I can take my external file and connect it to data that originated in the cube. But I have this first step to do, which is to write a list report so that I have something to connect to. So that's one reason I might connect here to a report. Another reason I might use a report would be, let's say in the relational world, my spreadsheet I uploaded is certainly relational, and the package I picked was a package with query subjects in it. Maybe the data I need to link on from my file doesn't actually exist in a query subject, but I could maybe derive that value by doing a calculation on data that is in a query subject. Well, if I need to connect my uploaded file to the result of a calculation, I would create a report that included the calculation, and then I would link to the report my uploaded file. So in the relational world, lots of times you use a report when the links you have to build are based on having to do a derivation on the package data, the original package data, in order to achieve the link. In the dimensional world, the only option you have to connect an uploaded file to cube data is to convert the cube data to a list and then link to the list. But remember, at that point, it is no longer an OLAP object. Now that linkage and that data is relational. And actually, the example I'm going to do for you is exactly that example. I'm going to connect an uploaded file to dimensional data, and therefore I will be able to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So let's do that demonstration. I'm going to go and jump onto a system here. So here I have logged into Cognos. It's Cognos 1022. Here is my file that I wish to add to the data that is in a package currently. This file is a CSV, which, like most people, my CSVs auto open in Excel, which is fine. I'm not going to change it. I just want you to see what's in it. So I have some product line information, some product type information, and some budget numbers for the year 2013. And this data is not stored in my data warehouse, but it's data I need on a report alongside product cost, product revenue information that is stored in my data warehouse. So I'm going to use this external data capability to do that. So first thing I'll do is I'll launch Report Studio. And since I wanted to create this linkage to data that only exists in an OLAP data source, let's say that it was a Power Cube or maybe a DMR package or perhaps an SSAS cube or an SAP BW cube. Before I can do this linkage step, I have to create a list report that will get the data from the cube that I need, because I can't link my uploaded file directly to this package because it's a cube. It's not relational. So I'm doing like the hardest example, if you will, to give you the full enchilada of how this all works. So I'm going to create a new list report. And I know that in addition to my budget data, I need data about sales. So I have to think about how I link my data. And I'm going to link based on the product line and product type names. Those are what I'm going to link on in my report, in my upload. So my file has product line names and product type names, and now my report has product line names and product type names, so I have a way to link. Now my data is only about the year 2013, so I need to make sure that the data in this report is also only about the year 2013. So I'm going to do that by just dragging over the 2013 member and adding it as a column. And then now I could link my year column in my CSV and my product type name column and my product line name column to this data. And now I can add the data that I want to incorporate with my budget data from my CSV. So I'm going to add some revenue and some quantity data and some cost data and some planned revenue data to this list. So in my list, I have those things I am going to join my uploaded file on, plus those things from the package I need when I write my resulting report from the linkage of my uploaded file to this report. So I'm going to go ahead and save this report. I'll just drop it into my folders. I'll call it Cube Report. And now I am going to click on this Manage External Data Wizard. So I'll go ahead and click on the wizard. And I will browse to that file, which happens to be right here on my desktop. It's going to go ahead and read that file. Now I'm going to leave the checkbox cleared. I'm going to leave all of the file. I want to take in all of the columns. I'll keep the namespace alone, but you see here I could change the namespace. But this is where I just identify the file, and I tell it whether or not to just go ahead and load the file or always prompt me by whether I check or uncheck that checkbox. And I give the namespace that it will put in the new package it publishes a name, and it defaults to the name of my file, which in this case is perfectly fine. Now here, you note that it says, aha, this is a dimensional package. It's an OLAP source that is modeled. Query subjects are not allowed. All I'm going to allow you to do is connect the relational data in the uploaded file to the report. So that's why I have to write the report first. So I'll take that report we just wrote, and now I will link the data so that I can join the data that's in the report and in my file, so that when I write a resulting report, I can put data from both sides on that resulting report. I noticed that I did not tell Cognos that budget was a measure. So I better go back and, oh wait, maybe, oh, that's step number 3. So live data, live demo, and that's what happens there. So budget year goes to 2013 because this column has 2013 in my CSV, and that'll match that column. The name will go to the name, the line name, and the type name. So type to type, line to line, year to year, and I'm good. Now, if the package I had opened was running in dynamic query mode, I would have some options here. I'm not going to cover those today, but they are well documented in the Report Studio guide. Now I get to say product type budget is a measure, because by default, everything is a non-measure in your file. So to make it a measure, you just pick anything that's not the word unsupported. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose sum. And that means that whenever it aggregates budgets, it's going to total them up. So if I put a report with just product line on it, the budget will roll up across all the types that are in the line. And that's all I need to do here. And now I need to work with cardinality. So you see, if I flip these top ones, these change the second number. If I flip these bottom ones, these change the first number. And again, to read this cardinality, the first number talks about, am I only interested in matches, or am I also interested in the rows that don't match? And the second number is about how many will match when there is a match. So I have one row per year, product line, and product type in my spreadsheet. And I also have one row per year, product line, and product type in my report. So all values are unique on both sides is the right answer. If I had written a report where I had multiple rows in my report, for example, if my report included product, well, then I would have one row in my uploaded file that would match multiple rows in my report. In this case, I don't have that. I have one on either side. I'm also only interested in the rows that match in both my spreadsheet, my CSV file, excuse me, and the package data, the report data specifically. So one-to-one and one-to-one are the right answers here. But you need to go through and ask yourself the questions about how many will match, and am I interested in only the matches? And this will control a lot of the results you get when you're done. When I hit finish, you'll see this is 1022, so I have a plus here instead of a starburst button. But either way, if I could add yet another file, this button would not be gray. But by default, this package only allows one file to be uploaded and attached to it. This is the name of the package it will support. If I want to change it from my folders, I can. If I want to change its name, I can. I'm not going to change either for this demo. I'm just going to drop it right into my folders. This is a message saying, once again, hey, your uploaded file is relational. The package you're working with is dimensional. You can't mix and match dimensional data and the data from your file. That is not a supported mix and match, which is not a problem because we actually wrote the report and connected it to the report, but you still always get that warning. Now, Cognos has updated this report to use that new package. It's verified this report to say that, as far as it's concerned, this report will work with this package. But I'm just going to go ahead and start a new report. So I can show you how to build a report from scratch using this file. So this is the file I uploaded, and those are the columns that we saw. And now you see that has a measure icon. So, and if I do a properties on it, it'll show me that it's going to total it up, just like we specified in the wizard. This is the data from the report. Note that these come across as measures. Those are the data that I joined on. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to write a product line, product type report. I'm going to drop in revenue, cost, and planned revenue. I'll drop in my budget data. I'm going to move my cost over because I am going to do a calculation on my cost and my data from my uploaded file. I'll click and just do a simple subtraction, and I will update the label to say cost budget variance. I'm going to group by product line. I'm going to aggregate all of my measures with an automatic summary. And I'll just go ahead and run this report. Now, I did not check the checkbox, so I will always be prompted for the location of the report. So I'll browse to, the location of the file I wish to upload, pardon me. So I'll browse to the file I wish to upload. I'll click OK. It's now uploaded that file. It is now displaying data from that file, along with the data from the report, which came from a cube. And I now have a report that incorporates both the data from a package that represented a cube that is managed for me centrally, and data that just lives on my desktop. I'm going to go ahead and save this report. And I'm going to call this external data report. And if I go to my folders and I run this report again, you might be surprised that it didn't request the file again. And I can tell you, if I edited that file and saved it on my desktop and ran the report, my updated data will actually not show in this report. And that's because when you specify the file for a report that includes external data, Cognos grabs the file and loads it to the Cognos server once for your session. So in order for you to either get changes that you've done in that spreadsheet file, let's suppose, into your report, or to just get it to prompt you for yet another file, because you might actually have multiple files with the same format, and you might want to pick among 4 files based on what you're running the report for. So if you want to get that prompt again, or you want to have it update the data that it has temporarily copied to the Cognos server, you're going to need to actually log off of Cognos and log back on. When you do that and run the report, it will then launch into the where's this file. It will upload the file. You'll get any new contents of the file, and they'll show up in your report. So it uploads the file temporarily, and it keeps that file in memory on the Cognos server for your session. So when you end your session by logging out, when you log back in and you run that report, it doesn't keep a permanent copy of your file, so it will ask you where it is, and then it will upload whatever the current version is, and then your report will show you the current version. So that's my demonstration. So with that, I'm going to take a look at the questions you've submitted. Okay. So the first question is, only my administrators seem to be able to do this. Okay. That's actually a pretty common thing. And the reason is because of a default. Now, not a lot of people look at the properties I'm about to show you, but in this case, they're actually kind of important from an external data perspective. If you go to a package that you would like to let your end users who are not administrators add a file to, you're going to need to look at the properties on that package here in the Capabilities tab. By default, on a package, the capability for external data is off. It's not checked. So you may have gone through and done what you believe is right to give a person access to do external data via the administrator screen. And then they launch Report Studio or a CWA, they open this package, and the button's not there. The reason is because by default, packages don't have the allow external data capability checked. So if it's very hard to accidentally allow files to be attached to a package you don't want it to be. Even if you have given everybody access to the external data function, you also need to go in and turn on the external data capability on all the packages that you're interested in allowing people to do external data on. Now, I just updated the everyone. So this means that everybody that logs into this environment that uses this package might be able to upload a file and attach it to this package. Could be that all they want is a certain group. So I could add a group here that is just my report authors, and maybe there I'll leave the everyone the way it is, but in terms of I won't allow it to do external data. But anybody in the report authors group, I will grant. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let me do that again. Let me go in there one more time. Maybe if I do it a little slower, I'll do it right. So again, perhaps rather than giving everybody who has access to this the ability to do external data on it, perhaps what I want to do is I want to just add a different group. Maybe this is my group of authors. Maybe this is a group of 5 individuals who I've chosen to do this. It could be very precise. I'm going to go ahead and just pick all of my authors. And what I'll do is for just my authors, I'll grant all capabilities. But for everybody who's not an author, I will not grant that external data capability, you see. So I can be very precise about who on this particular package gets the ability to do it. And what I find is most people who tell me, hey, it's not working, I can't get the icon to launch the wizard, but I've given them the external data capability. The reason is because nobody went in and updated the properties on the package. Now, as long as I'm talking about it, let me just quickly show you. You can give an individual or a group of individuals access to the external data capability by going here, and in Report Studio, I believe, allow external data is a sub-function of Report Studio. So you can give a subset of the people who use Report Studio, and by the way, this also controls Cognos Workspace Advanced, the ability to do this at all. And you see by default, it's not everybody. Right now it is only administrators. So you might say, well, I want authors to be able to do this too. So let me add authors here and give them the ability to do external data. And that would be execute and traverse. And click OK. And now, again, if I forgot to update the properties on the package, it still won't work. I need both the group, or you can do individuals, but that's not a best practice. Typically, the group or the role that you're going to allow to do external data, you would do that. And then you would also go to the packages and add that same group to the package and enable the external data capability on the package as well. And together, you need both in order for external data to work for non-administrators. All right, another question. What's the difference between external data and personal data sets? Oh, excellent question. So if you did not see our webinar on what's new in 10.2.2 or did not see our webinar specifically on personal data sets, I would encourage you to go to our website and download it and view it to get a full feeling for personal data sets. But personal data sets are part of the 10.2.2 release. And the personal data set notion is that I can upload a file of a particular format, like a spreadsheet or a CSV, and I can write reports against it by using this personal data set notion. And that does sound an awful lot like external data. Here's the difference. For external data, I am connecting the uploaded file to a query subject or a report so that I can combine data in my uploaded file with data in the package I attached it to in the same list, crosstab chart, and so on in a report. Personal data sets allow me to upload a file, create a package for it, and write reports against that package. But you notice I didn't say link it to another package or link it to a report. You see, personal data sets, when you upload the file and you create the package, you write a report against the contents of the file you uploaded and not against anything else. In other words, you can't combine the data from the personal data set with any other data, because when you write a report, you get to pick a package, but one and only one package. The package you pick with personal data sets will just contain your personal data set. So if I, let's see, where's my button? So import data, data source, select a data source. Oh, I'm so sorry. Before I can do this, one of the things that I have to do, and this is all actually in the webinar that's dedicated to this, is I would first need to create a data source that points to a personal data set repository. That repository has to be DB2. Again, there's a lot more details in that other webinar. Once I have the repository defined here, I can select it in that wizard I tried to launch earlier. And then when I upload the file, what it actually does technically behind the scenes is it creates a table in that DB2 database and it loads my file in it. Then I create a package that exposes just that table, and I write reports against just that table. So external data is about uploading a file and then attaching it to data in another package so that I can combine that data on a report. Personal data sets are allowing me to upload a file, but once I've uploaded it, I can only create a report against the contents of that package, of that file I uploaded. I can't combine it with other data in the same report. So that's the primary difference between the two. All right. With external data, is there a way to limit the size? Yeah, actually, this must have come in before I mentioned that you can limit the size of the spreadsheet that's attached. And of course, you want to, because when you first run the report and you pick the file, of course, it's uploading the entire file to the Cognos server. Well, if that file is 3 gig, you can imagine that there is a load on the Cognos server, and there's a wait for you before all that data goes up. So you can specify both file size in megabytes and a number of rows in Framework Manager that will dictate the maximum size of any uploaded file that you might attach to a package created from the Framework Manager project you're editing. All right. Well, it looks like I am out of time again before I've answered all your questions. I will be sure that we answer all the questions you've submitted. I appreciate your time today. I hope you got something out of it.